κινητοποιήσεις των αγροτών αργά ή γρήγορα θα σταματήσουν. Αυτό που δεν πρόκειται να σταματήσει είναι ο πληθωρισμός στα τρόφιμα. Αυτό υποστηρίζουν παράγοντες της αγοράς όπως ο οργανισμός Δήμητρα με έδρα τη Γαλλία, που απαρτίζεται από μεγάλες εταιρείες της διατροφικής αλυσίδας και λειτουργεί ως ενδιάμεσος φορέας μεταξύ ιδιωτικού και δημόσιου τομέα. Η συνεχής αυξήση στα τρόφιμα είναι ένα πολυπαραγοντικό πρόβλημα, με κυριότερες παραμέτρους την ανάγκη λήψης μέτρων για την προστασία του περιβάλλοντος και την αντιμετώπιση της κλιματικής αλλαγής. Την ανάγκη ίσων όρων παιχνιδιού για τους παραγωγούς εντός και εκτός Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, τη μείωση της παραγωγής λόγω των ακραίων καιρικών φαινομένων, την έλλειψη εργατικού δυναμικού και την ανάγκη περισσότερης καινοτομίας. Όπως εξηγεί στο Euronews η υπεύθυνη διεθνών σχέσεων του οργανισμού Δήμητρα Λάουρα Ντεμούρτας, οι Ευρωπαίοι καταναλωτές πρέπει να συνειδητοποιήσουν ότι οι καλές τιμές στα τρόφιμα δεν είναι οι χαμηλές τιμές, αλλά οι τιμές που διασφαλίζουν δίκαιη αποζημίωση στους παραγωγούς και βιώσιμες πρακτικές καλλιέργειας.
Ms. Demurtas, farmers in different European countries have taken to the streets. Are there any common reasons behind these protests?
So I think that to understand why farmers are protesting today, we should consider the geopolitical context that we have. So on one side, we are facing a huge climate and natural resources crisis in all of the world to a disproportionate extent. So the ecosystem that contribute the least and are the most well preserved are the one that are suffering the most visible consequences. In another side, we have conflicts. So the pandemic before and then the war in Ukraine have shown the importance to have a food security and food sovereignty to assure the stability of the continent. And then we have a demographic rise. So today we have 8 billion people to feed, and there will be 10 billion people in 2050. So how to feed more people? We should find a solution, and how to do that, how to produce more, and how to limit food waste. So I think that farmers are protesting today to ask simply higher salary, to loosen the rigid stake of the Green Deal, for the costly bureaucracy of agricultural and environmental regulations to be made more flexible and simplified. So they want a review of all these trade agreements, such as the Mercosur, for import to be subject to this rules as European agricultural product, because they just want to avoid a free trade agreement that allow the invasion in the European market of product with low standard and low prices. So farmer anger stems, I think, from the fact that society asks a lot of them without necessarily providing them with the support they need to meet all our expectations as consumers and institutions, and to assume all the cost of the transition. So the logic of low prices strictly owned by the supermarket is not sustainable. We must put in the equation of the transition also the consumers and educate them to food. So we have to understand that the logic of low price is not sustainable. So we must put in the equation of the transition also the consumers, and we must understand that the good price is a good price for the environment, for the producers, and for the health. So they are just asking.
Let's go a bit to the new European Pact. There is a discussion that it asks from the farmers to reduce their production. Is this true?
I don't think they're asking a farmer to produce less. The problem is that in the latest 30 years, Europe have asked the farmers to moving away from the production approach because we thought that the food security was already achieved in the continent. So also the EU asked to improve the standard of our production, lowering the environmental impact of the agriculture production and improving the health standard. So all good in principle, but it's far away in practice from the reality that we are living today. So I don't think that the farmers has to produce less, and the European the common agriculture policy is not saying that we have to produce less. They just put the 40% of the budget in the environmental pillar. So the problem is that to produce more, we need to face climate change, and the climate change is eating also Europe. So we cannot ask the farmers just to fight against climate change and to less the environmental impact, but we have to assure instruments that allow them to produce more, because without food security, we are not able to fight climate change.
On that, do you see the European Union going back on some of the environmental protection rules that it has introduced in the new CAP?
I don't know that the Commission. I don't think that the Commission will step back in the targets that they put in the Common Agricultural Policy. I just think that they will listen to farmers, and they just demonstrated that European Union proposed to limit the Ukraine import for sugar, poultry, and eggs. They proposed to limit and put measures against product that comes from disrupted markets, and they just propose to control more the imports from the neighbors. Then I don't think that we have to remember that the target of the Common Agricultural Policy are not all already in place. So we don't have to say that the CAP is the problem of farmers today in total. So we just have to think about the need to meet the production necessity, and so food security, to assure food security and to achieve our environmental goals.
Farmers protest about rising costs and cheap imports, but these are problems that almost every European industry faces. Why farmers should be treated differently and being protected in a ways that other sectors don't enjoy? I
think it is important to underline the role of farmers, so to protect the agricultural sector, because to have peace we need food security, and to have food security we need agriculture. So I'm not saying that farmers are the only one that has to be protected, but they are not asking the moon. They are just asking the European Union to put the same role that they have to produce in Europe, same for the imports. So that for imports to be subject to the same rules as European agricultural products. So, and it's just to avoid the invasion in the European market of product with the low standard and low prices. Also because we cannot ask the farmers to be the main actors of the transition if they cannot have a high salary of a right salary. So we have to give them the instrument. We have to tax it, for example, all the import that do not respect the European standard, or we have to try to convince the consumers that the good price for the European agricultural product is the good price also for the producers, so not just for the consumers. So I think it's a problem that concerns all the industry in Europe, but especially farmers, because we are saying that farmers are the main actors of this transition, and so we have to take them as the main actor of this transition, and not as the defendant, as Mr. De Castro said in the European Commission.
Given all that, and taking as the assumption that some of their demands might be satisfied, do you see food prices rising in the future?
Yes, I think that inflation will keep on going. So we saw farmers are protesting also for the rising of fuel and chemical costs. But I think that the European Union, to fight this inflation, should find a common strategy in agricultural strategy, and should give renew the sense of common for our agricultural policy. And so for inflation, of course, we will see how the war will continue, and we have to take into account the geopolitical context. So of course prices will rise, also because all the university, the research institute, and the European institution said that if the European Union will keep the target of the Green Deal in 2030 and 2050, production will be lower, and we will have increased salary, and prices will rise. So this is a fact. and is demonstrated. So yes, I think prices will be higher, but I don't think inflation is a bad thing today for agriculture.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.